Dear friends, we've been on a long journey with Huyen and Diễm, from the brutal storms of the business world and the rock-bottom humiliations at the poor boarding house, to the moment they walked away from a billion-dollar empire to return to the countryside, build a chicken coop, and grow vegetables. Their little garden is now lush and green, and those 100 young hens are constantly nesting, producing baskets of fresh pink eggs every single morning. Their homestead may be rustic, but it's overflowing with laughter. However deep within the eyes of that devoted wife and in the stifled midnight sighs of the former CEO, a nameless sorrow always lingered. 5 years had passed since they officially became husband and wife. 5 years of sharing every hardship, yet that wooden house was still missing the sound of a child's laughter and cries. There were times when Diễm would watch the neighborhood kids herding buffaloes at the end of the alley, quickly turning away to wipe her bitter tears. She sometimes thought that maybe the heavens had taken away her ability to be a mother, just to test them one more time. But guys, fate always has the most wonderful way of arranging things when we least expect it. Today's episode is going to be an extended feature, full of suspense, suspicion, and anxiety, finally bursting into an ultimate joy that shocks the entire mountain village. Diễm's unusual behavior, Huyen's absolute panic, and a secret box containing a little life will keep your eyes glued to the screen. Find a quiet corner, brew a fragrant pot of lotus tea, and lean back comfortably to immerse yourself in today's deeply emotional, special extended episode. The secret at the bottom of the wooden box and the former CEO's tears of fatherhood. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave a like to send your blessings to their little family. Let the story begin. It was the autumn of their second year since Huyen and Diễm left the city for the mountains. Their homestead was much more established now. That flock of 100 chickens was laying eggs like clockwork. Every morning their familiar routine was grabbing a basket to collect the still warm eggs in the coop, then tying up bundles of tender water spinach to wholesale at the district market. Life was comfortable. They were no longer scraping by meal to meal, but the silence in their 3-room house sometimes felt chillingly empty. Lately, Huyen had started noticing some incredibly strange signs in his wife. Diễm wasn't smiling as radiantly as before, her skin usually rosy from working outdoors in the sun, and dew suddenly became pale and sickly. There were mornings when she was sweeping the yard and would suddenly sway, having to grip the trunk of the jackfruit tree just to keep from collapsing. Even scarier, Diễm started having bouts of dry heaving. That noon, Huyen was sweating in the kitchen, making galangal braised streamfish, Diễm's absolute favorite dish. But the moment Huyen brought the boiling, steaming clay pot of fish to the table, Diễm caught a whiff of the fermented galangal, immediately covered her mouth, and ran straight to the water well, throwing up violently. Panicking, Huyen tossed the potholder aside and rushed out to rub his wife's back. "Diễm, what's wrong? Is your stomach acting up again? Or did you catch a cold? Let me get some medicated oil to rub on your back, or let me get the bike and take you to the district clinic right now." Huyen's voice cracked with pure worry. Diễm threw up until tears streamed down her face, her body going completely limp as she leaned against her husband's solid chest. She weakly waved her hand. "No, I'm fine, honey. It's probably just the change in the weather making me a bit tired. Plus, the fishy smell is just making me nauseous. I'll just go lie down in bed for a bit and I'll be fine, don't worry." Watching his wife lying weakly in bed, covered with a thin blanket, Huyen's insides burned like fire. He used to be a CEO who called the shots flawlessly, handling thousands of problems. worth tens of billions of dong without blinking an eye. Yet now, looking at his wife's pale face, Ton felt utterly helpless and absolutely terrified. He horrifyingly thought back to the days when Diễm worked her fingers to the bone at the poor boarding house, staying up late and waking up early in the freezing rain and scorching sun. Was there some deadly illness silently destroying her body that she was hiding from him? In the days that followed, Ton absolutely forbade Diễm from lifting a finger. He woke up by himself at 4 a.m. to collect eggs, feed the chickens, hoe the dirt, and then busied himself cooking porridge to bring right to her bed. But Diễm's exhaustion didn't seem to fade at all. Ton even caught her staring blankly at the baby clothes drying on the neighbor's fence, her distant eyes welling with tears. Toan's suspicion and anxiety reached their peak on a midweek morning. That day, Diễm made an excuse that she needed to go to the district market to buy more chicken feed and a few rolls of chain-link fence for the vegetable garden. Toan insisted on driving her, but Diễm flat out refused. "You just stay home and fix the porch roof, it's about to rain. I'll just hitch a ride on neighbor Bar's cart to the market and be back in a flash. Making you drive me back and forth is too much of a hassle," Diễm insisted firmly. Diễm's overly stubborn refusal only made Toan more suspicious. She had never before refused to sit behind him, hugging his waist as they cruised on the old motorbike. The intuition of a man who had survived the cutthroat business world told him one thing: Diễm was hiding an earth-shattering secret from him. Maybe she knew she had a severe illness and was purposely going to the doctor alone, so he wouldn't worry. The more he thought about it, the more cold sweat poured down Ton's forehead. He decided not to fix the porch roof after all. As soon as neighbor Bar's cart disappeared at the end of the village, Ton rolled his motorbike out and secretly tailed her from a safe distance. And it was exactly as he suspected. The cart didn't stop at the animal feed section of the district market. It drove straight through the town and screeched to a halt right in front of the gates of the district general hospital. Seeing Diễm completely bundled up in her scarf, walking silently through the hospital gates, Ton felt like his entire world was collapsing. His hands shook on the handlebars, nearly making him crash. "Oh God, Diễm, what kind of illness do you have that you have to hide it and go to the hospital alone like this?" Ton gritted his teeth, his chest aching as if someone were slicing into it with a knife. He parked his bike under an almond tree by the road, hiding behind the hospital wall, his eyes glued to the clinic area. 2 hours passed, dragging on like 2 centuries. Ton paced back and forth, chain-smoking through half a pack of cigarettes. With every passing minute, he imagined the absolute worst-case scenarios. If something actually happened to Diễm, what was the point of this homestead, or even his own life? Finally, Diễm stepped out of the clinic. Contrary to Toan's thoughts, she wasn't crying or looking frail. Instead, she stopped dead in her tracks in the middle of the hospital courtyard, her fingers gently tracing a piece of white paper. Her shoulders shook violently, and then she covered her face and cried. But it didn't look like the cry of despair. Toan was about to rush out and hug his wife, but his legs felt like lead. He watched Diễm carefully fold the paper into quarters, gently caressing it like a priceless treasure, tucking it deep into her breast pocket before hurriedly catching a motorbike taxi home. Ton stood frozen in silence under the almond tree. What kind of illness would give her such a strange expression? That afternoon, the tension inside the wooden house was suffocating. Ton came home first, purposely taking a thorough shower and pretending he had been sweating all day, fixing the porch roof. He butchered a young rooster and stewed it with shiitake mushrooms and lotus seeds to nourish his wife. When Diễm got home, her complexion was unusually rosy and radiant. Her eyes sparkled with a brilliant light that Ton hadn't seen in a very long time. "Hubby, I'm home. That stewed chicken smells amazing. Did you cook that for me?" Diễm ran into the kitchen, throwing her arms around Ton's back, affectionately rubbing her cheek against his shoulder. Ton turned around, looking deep into his wife's eyes, desperately trying to suppress the torment screaming inside him. "Were you tired going to the market this morning? Did you get the chain-link fence?" Diễm froze for a split second, a flash of panic in her eyes. "Oh, I bought it, but they said they couldn't deliver it to the village until tomorrow. Anyway, let's eat, I'm starving." Throughout the entire meal, Ton couldn't swallow a single grain of rice. He kept picking up the leanest, tenderest pieces of chicken and putting them into Diễm's bowl. Watching his wife eat heartily, no longer gagging like the past few days, Ton felt even more tormented. "Diễm!" Ton put down his chopsticks and took a deep breath, his voice dropping with absolute seriousness. "I don't know what you're hiding from me, but we promised each other we would never lie to one another, that we'd share our blessings and our burdens. If something is wrong with you, whether it's an illness or the sky is falling, please tell me. Don't carry it alone, I'm begging you." Hearing her husband's gut-wrenching words, Diễm put her bowl down. She knew Ton had noticed her unusual behavior. Seeing the bloodshot, visibly haggard eyes of the man who used to breathe fire in the corporate world, now pleading with her, Diễm's heart ached profoundly. She slowly stood up, smiling tenderly. "Sit here and wait for me for a second. I have something I want to show you. Once you see it, you'll understand everything." With that, Diễm walked quickly into the bedroom. She headed toward the oak wardrobe in the corner and pulled out a tiny, exquisitely carved wooden box from the bottom of a chest. This was the exact same keepsake box Ton had once used to hold their marriage certificate. She took a deep breath, clutched the box to her chest, and walked back out to the main room. Diễm placed the wooden box on the dining table and gently pushed it toward Ton. "Here's your gift. Open it yourself." Diễm's voice trembled, her hands clasped tightly together in sheer anticipation. Ton stared at the box. His heart was pounding so hard it felt like it would jump out of his chest. Medical records, a cancer prescription, his rough hands heavily calloused from gripping a hoe, trembled as they touched the lid. It took him several seconds before he dared to flick open the small brass latch. The lid opened. Inside, there weren't any terrifying medical records. The very first thing that caught Ton's eye was a tiny pair of knit baby booties, a pale yellow color, barely the size of half his palm. The booties were meticulously crocheted, looking incredibly adorable. Ton was stunned, his eyebrows knitted tightly together. He looked up at Diễm in total confusion. What does this mean?" Diễm didn't answer. She just used her tear-filled eyes to gesture for Ton to look at the bottom of the box. Beneath those tiny knit booties was a carefully folded black and white ultrasound printout. Ton shakily picked up the paper. The clinical words hit his eyes. "Pregnancy ultrasound results. 1 gestational sac in the uterine cavity. Fetal heartbeat present. Gestational age 7 weeks 3 days. Attached to it was a tiny ultrasound photo showing a faint black dot right in the middle of the screen. Time seemed to stop. The wind whistling on the porch, the crickets chirping in the garden, everything completely vanished. All that remained was the deafening, frantic heartbeat pounding in Ton's chest. The words, "Gestational age 7 weeks 3 days," struck him like a lightning bolt straight to the mind. Straight to his mind, tearing through the dark night of his anxiety, lighting up the most brilliant and glorious fire he had ever known. "Diễm! You! Tone stammered, his lips trembling violently, his eyes glued to the ultrasound paper as if afraid it would disappear. He looked up at his wife. Diem's face was now streaming with tears. She nodded continuously, her hands cradling her belly that hadn't even begun to show yet. I didn't go by chain-link fence this morning. I went to get an ultrasound, honey. The doctor said I'm pregnant. Our baby is almost 2 months old, Tone. It already has a heartbeat. The doctor let me hear it beating so fast, so strong. Clatter. The wooden stool behind him was knocked over. Tone lunged forward, dropping to his knees on the floor, right in front of Diem. The former multi-billion dong CEO, the man who once used ruthless coldness to crush every opponent in the business world, was now kneeling and tightly hugging his poor wife's waist, pressing his ear against her flat stomach and bursting into tears like a baby. "Oh my God, my baby. Diem, I'm going to be a father. We're having a baby." Tone's cries cracked, sobbing and carrying the heavy weight of 5 long, exhausting years of waiting. The hot tears of this grown man soaked a patch of his wife's traditional shirt. Diem leaned down, holding her husband's tear-drenched face, pressing her forehead against his. The couple held each other and cried in the middle of their simple wooden house. Oh, viewers, those weren't cries of sorrow, but the absolute peak of fulfillment. All the self-pity when looking at other people's kids, all those sleepless nights, tossing and turning all the pressure from the days they started their business with empty hands. Everything was finally rewarded with a tiny little life taking shape. Tuan looked up his hands tenderly, cupping Diem's face, kissing her forehead, her cheeks, her trembling lips. "Thank you. Thank you for enduring all the hardships. Thank you for bringing this angel to me. From this moment on, you are forbidden from doing any heavy lifting. The housework, the gardening, taking care of the chickens, I'm taking over everything. My madam just needs to sit back, relax, eat well, dress beautifully, and give birth to a perfectly healthy baby for me." Diem laughed through her tears, lightly punching her husband's shoulder. "You're being so dramatic. The doctor said it's a healthy pregnancy, and I should just keep doing normal light activities. If you ban me from working, I'll die of boredom." Tuan firmly shook his head, scooping Diem up into his arms to her complete surprise, spinning her around in the middle of the room. "No means no orders from the CEO. No arguing. Today is the happiest day of my life. I have to butcher 2 more chickens and give them to the neighbors to celebrate." The small wooden house halfway up the hill seemed to light up that night. The stars in the sky seemed to sparkle even brighter to congratulate the young couple on their earth-shattering good news. From now on, the little garden wouldn't just have the sound of hoes hitting the dirt or chickens clucking. Very soon it would be overflowing with the cries and laughter of a child. The seed of life had been sown into the barren land through the most sacred and fierce love. Right after the tears of happiness dried on their cheeks, Tone immediately scooped Diem up and laid her down on the bamboo bed, spread with a woven mat. He carefully propped a rattan pillow behind her back, then draped a thin blanket across her stomach, even though the autumn weather was just pleasantly cool. "From this exact minute, your only job is to eat, sleep, and rest for the baby. Everything from feeding the chickens, sweeping the yard, cooking to doing the laundry. Director Toan here will handle it all." Tone proudly patted his chest, his eyes unable to hide his absolute excitement. Diem giggled, reaching out to gently pinch her husband's nose. "You're overreacting. The doctor said I'm perfectly healthy and should just keep moving around normally to make the delivery easier. Lying in one spot all day is going to drive me crazy. No disobeying my orders. It's my first time being a dad. I have to take super good care of you both." Tone firmly pressed Diem's shoulders down. Then he rubbed his hands together, a calculating gleam flashing in his eyes. "Wifey, you stay right here and rest. Today, we have major good news. I have to go out to the garden right now and catch the biggest capon in the flock to stew with lotus seeds and jujubes to nourish you." Saying it meant doing it. Tone heroically turned on his heel and marched out the door. His target wasn't the precious 100 laying hens, but the purplish-red feathered capon weighing nearly 9 pounds that the couple had separated from the flock months ago, planning to save it for the Lunar New Year feast. But at this moment, who cared about New Year's? The baby growing in Diem's belly was the biggest celebration of his entire life. Tuan stepped out into the backyard, armed with a bamboo-woven landing net. The red rooster was busy scratching the dirt for worms under the longan tree. Seeing a figure aggressively approaching it, threw its head up, its beady eyes wide with alert. "Be a good boy. Come here to Daddy today. You have the absolute honor of becoming a nourishing meal for the heir of the empire." Tone muttered, tiptoeing forward step by step, the former CEO's tall frame twisting and contorting in a hilariously awkward way. But a crossbred fighting rooster wasn't going to surrender that easily. The exact second Tone swung the bamboo net and lunged, it flapped its wings wildly, leapt into the air, dodging the net by a hair, and landed in the sweet potato vines before running for its life. "Oh, so you want to do this the hard way." Tone's blood boiled. He rolled his shorts up past his knees and officially declared war. And just like that, the most spectacular and chaotic chase to date unfolded in the middle of the quiet garden. The roosters terrified squawking, the sound of Tuan's heavy footsteps thudding against the dry leaves. The cunning rooster darted through the water. Spinach beds slipped under the sponge-gored trellis and fluttered right up to the top of the firewood pile. Tone bolted after it without hitting the brakes, stepping squarely into a slippery mud puddle. Splat. The former multi-billion dong CEO wiped out completely his face and clothes covered in mud and looking absolutely pathetic. A few stray chicken feathers drifted down, landing right on top of his head. Peeking out from the bedroom window, Diem clutched her stomach, laughing so hard that tears streamed down her face. She had never seen Director Tone look so miserable, yet so incredibly adorable. Refusing to surrender to adversity, Tone scrambled to his feet, gritting his teeth. This time he played the lure the enemy tactic. He grabbed a handful of rice and scattered it evenly in front of the coop door. The moment the gluttonous rooster poked its head out to peck at the grain, Tone lunged from behind like a wolf, pouncing on its prey, grabbing both wings and pinning it firmly to the ground. "Gotcha! How dare you make me trip!" Tone panted heavily, hoisting his heavy loot into the air with a triumphant laugh. His mud-streaked face was as radiant as if he had just successfully signed a billion-dollar contract. After the wrestling match in the garden, Tone carried the rooster over to the open well to butcher it. The hands that were so used to holding a fountain pen were now swiftly slitting the throat-boiling water and plucking feathers with incredible skill. But the real challenge awaited in the red brick kitchen. Tone started the fire. Because the firewood had gotten a bit damp from yesterday's rain, thick smoke billowed out, swirling all over the tiny kitchen. The former CEO squatted in front of the stove, coughing his lungs out his eyes and nose, running frantically, fanning the flames with a woven bamboo fan. The chicken was chopped into large chunks, marinated with a little salt premium fish sauce and white peppercorns. Tuan carefully opened the cupboard and pulled out a packet of lotus seeds, jujubes, and a few dried ginseng roots he had casually bought the other day when he went to the district. Everything was placed into a thick clay pot, submerged in water, and set on the three-legged iron stove. For the next 2 hours, Ton stood guard by the fire without taking a single step away. He kept the heat at a gentle simmer, occasionally taking off the lid to skim the foam so the broth would be crystal clear. The aroma of the chicken blending with the sweet, refreshing scent of lotus seeds and jujubes wafted through the air, drifting right into the bedroom and making Diem's stomach rumble. Phew! Done. Using a rag, Ton lifted the bubbling clay pot off the stove onto the brick floor, carefully ladling the soup into a deep porcelain bowl. The golden broth glistened with a layer of chicken fat, the soft blooming lotus seeds, mixed with the plump jujubes, looking incredibly appetizing. Even though his face was smeared with soot, Ton's eyes sparkled with indescribable pride. As dusk fell, the dinner was neatly set on the bamboo table on the front porch, illuminated by the flickering yet warm glow of an oil lamp. Ton carefully carried the steaming bowl of chicken stew and placed it right in front of Diem. Next to it was a bowl of pristine white Highland sticky rice. Wifey, please eat the result of my entire afternoon sweating bullets. I guarantee it tastes better than any 5-star restaurant in the city. Ton pulled up a chair opposite her, using the hem of his shirt to wipe the sweat from his forehead, his eyes shining brightly as he waited for her reaction. Diem looked at the bowl of soup, then looked at her husband's ragged appearance. His hair stuck with chicken feathers, and his cheeks smeared with soot. Her heart felt like it was melting. She picked up her spoon, carefully scooped up a spoonful of the clear broth, blew on it gently, and took a sip. Is it good? Is it too salty or too bland? Does the smell of the chicken fat make you nauseous? Ton leaned forward, firing off questions as stressed as if he were waiting for a partner to close a major bid. Diem closed her eyes, feeling the pure, sweet taste of the broth spreading across her tongue. The rich, nutty lotus seeds melted right in her mouth. The chicken was perfectly firm and chewy, deeply infused with the seasonings. Truly, it was the best bowl of chicken soup she had ever eaten in her life. She opened her eyes, nodding continuously, the corners of her eyes welling with tears. It's so delicious, honey. It's not fishy or greasy at all. I could easily finish this whole big bowl. You're amazing. Hearing his wife's praise, Ton let out a huge sigh of relief. Leaning back in his chair with a hearty laugh, he picked up a massive chicken drumstick and placed it into Diem's bowl. If it's good, eat a lot. Right now, you're eating for 2. From tomorrow on, the madam's nourishing menu will be completely designed by me. Stewed chicken pigeon carp. I'll make it all. Under the bright autumn moonlight with the faint scent of sweet osmanthus lingering in the yard, the couple enjoyed a simple dinner overflowing with love. Diem ate heartily, while Ton was completely absorbed in just watching his wife eat, occasionally using a napkin to wipe a drop of broth from the corner of her lips. The chorus of frogs in the fields blending with the couple's crisp laughter created an exquisitely peaceful symphony. The arrival of this tiny life had transformed the iron-willed CEO into a true family man ready to throw away all his pride, dive into the mud, and cover himself in soot just for a bowl of soup for his wife. Happiness, when it comes down to it, is exactly these simple, sacrificial moments. Through today's episode, we can't help but admire and love Ton's character even more. True love doesn't lie in grandiose promises or expensive gifts. It shows itself clearest through practical actions, through the worry, the heartache, and even the adorably clumsy ways a man cares for his woman. Toan's lotus seed chicken stew might have had a little sweat and a little soot, but the greatest seasoning in it was his boundless love for Diễm and their unborn child. Diễm's upcoming pregnancy journey will undoubtedly feature plenty of hilarious laugh-out-loud situations, as Tone learns to be a capable, hands-on dad. What do you think the former CEO will cook up next to nourish his wife? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel to join us for the incredibly bright days ahead. Goodbye, and see you next time.